Hello everyone, I'm Jennifer Grace and today I'm sharing a watercolour card tutorial for the Sweet Stamp Shop grand reopening. Sweet Stamp Shop have redesigned their website and their packaging, things like that. So they're having a bit of a reopening party and they asked if some people wanted to join in as part of a designer showcase to share a bunch of cards created either with this oolong tea stamp set or with some of their other recent stamp sets. So I said, of course, please let me join in because I love Sweet Stamp Shop stamps. So I received access to this stamp, which is a cup of tea and some milk and some sugar cubes. It comes with a sentiment that says it's been oolong as well, but I didn't use that. I got the digi file for this, but it will just be released as a proper stamp set. So I have printed off my stamp. If you were stamping it, you would need to make sure that you use a waterproof ink, or one that's not going to bleed when you put water next to it. So something like the Memento Tuxedo Black ink, I think, is water resistant. Okay, but I've printed mine on a laser printer and now I am just filling in the colours with watercolours. So I decided to use watercolours because they just kind of add a nice texture, because you kind of make sure that when you do watercolours you don't do them perfectly. Like they'll have blobs of darker and lighter colours and you can leave patches where you don't quite fill up the images. It just makes everything seem quite lively and happy. So I've used pink for the teacup, yellow for the label on the milk carton, and grey just to kind of ground the stamp, just to kind of give it like a shadow as though it's on a tabletop. Next I'm going to add some swirls and icons and things all coming out of the teacup. I decided not to use the It's Been Oolong sentiment because I didn't actually know what oolong tea was until I saw this stamp set and googled it. I've never had it myself, so it didn't feel right to use the sentiment to me. But this shows that you can use the stamp set in different ways. Even if a part of it doesn't appeal to you, you can use the other bits of it. So I kind of thought of it as just a cup of tea. I do love tea. And it's a bit like magic in a cup. That's why I've got all these swirls and things coming out. Here I'm just showing you how I cleaned up a little bit, where I dropped a bit off of my paintbrush. A bit of the coating on my paintbrush fell off, and then I smudged it when I was trying to get it off. So because it's watercolour, you can kind of lift it off by adding a bit more water on and dabbing it with a bit of kitchen towel. It did still have a very light colour of grey on that bit of paper, but it doesn't really notice. So once I'd done the main swirls, I then want to do some little details. So I used pink to paint some little hearts. I was just dotting these hearts, and I also do some butterflies and stars. I was just dotting them around the swirls in random places, just trying to keep things lively and making sure your eyes are drawn around the design. Keep it all interesting and magical looking. I chose to stick with yellow and blue and pink because they're nice spring-like colours and they're really pretty, so it makes for a nice happy card. So here I'm just painting on the stars. With watercolour it's best not to try and do really dark colours straight away. Rather, it's best to build up layers of colour. So after I'd done all these lighter colours, I went on and added a bit more colour on top. So this deepens the colour without actually making the colour itself a lot darker. You're just sort of building the same colour on top again. You can see I dab it sometimes with a bit of kitchen paper, just where it got a bit too dark. I took off that paint again to lighten the area up. So I'm going over again the pink hearts. I do the same with the other icons and the swirls again. I wanted to make sure the black lines from the laser printer weren't too dominating, so I did need to just go over these again, make sure they showed up against that black. I didn't want it to get lost, or the details to get lost on the card. So here I'm just going over the grey swirls again. It was harder to do going over it the next time, and keeping it smooth. The lines are slightly more wobbly, but I think it just kind of adds to the hand painted effect. It's not supposed to be perfect, right? Once I'd done all the swirls and the icons and everything, I decided it still needed a little bit more. I waited for this all to dry because I didn't want the colours to blotch together, and then I just splattered some drops of the yellow and pink and blue all over the top of the card. The white paper that I used is a 200 GSM art paper, so it's not watercolour paper, but it is a lot stronger than normal paper. And then I just needed to finish off my card. So I drew over some of the items with a black pen. Again, once the watercolour paint had dried, it had lightened up a bit, so that black ink from the laser printer was dominating the effect of the card a bit too much again. So I just went over the swirls and the icons with black pen, but I was careful to just do it in a really doodled kind of style, like the lines don't join up on the hearts and stars, because I wanted to keep that lively, fun feeling. And if I'd have done it too carefully, it would have looked a bit too block-like, and it would have made them look printed, whereas I wanted to keep the hand-drawn feel to the card. So then I just put double-sided sticky tape all over the back of the painted piece so that I could layer it up on my card. Normally I would use a tape runner, but I don't have any tape at the moment, so double-sided tape it is. Takes me a bit longer. I've sped it up so it's less boring for you. Once the layers were stuck onto my card, I just finished it off with some enamel dots. They just add that extra shiny, fun twist to the card. That was it. It was finished. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Jennifer Grace, and this was for the Sweet Stamp Shop Grand Reopening Celebration. I hope I've inspired you to have a play with some watercolours, get out your stamps and get making. Goodbye for now.